Hey everybody, this is Robert Burke. I'd like to welcome you to episode number 10 of When to Play. And in episode 9, we talked about a pretty heavy game called Mage Knight, a game that takes hours, a very long time to play. So in this episode, I wanted to bring it down a whole bunch of levels and show you a very light game that does not take long to play. And when I say it does not take long, I mean this game takes about 10 or 15 minutes. And it's fun. And it's called Timeline. It comes in a tin, a small, compact tin box. And I know if you're a gamer, there's a lot of you out there that hate these tin boxes because you can't really stack them on your cardboard game boxes, right? Because they'll dig in and dent them and everything else, and you've got to put your tins somewhere separately, and that's a pain. But there are benefits to having a tin like this, right? Especially if you're not a gamer, because it really protects the cards in the box. It's a card game. The only components in this game are cards. And you can throw this in your backpack, in your suitcase, and it's not going to get damaged. It makes it very portable, not just because of its small size, but because of its strength. So that's a benefit. The artwork you'll see on the tin is a very kind of illustrative style, a little bit cartoony. I like it. It fits. And there's also, you'll see this icon on the top here, this blue with the gears. That identifies this as being a part of inventions. So this is Timeline Inventions. So the cards, every card in here is a different invention. But there's other sets that you can get. You can get discoveries. There are historical events, monuments, arts and literature, music. And so depending on what your likes are, you might want to research it a little bit to determine which Timeline game is best for you. Or maybe there's multiple ones that you'd like to get. The game is inexpensive. It is like between $13 and $15. So very cheap. And worth every penny if you ask me. So Timeline, it comes with a little rule book. A very short rule book. The rules are so simple. You could put the rules on a fortune cookie, really, if you wanted to. It's that simple to understand. I can tell you the rules right now in about 2 minutes, and you'll know how to play it. So in Timeline, every player is going to get a hand of cards. They're going to say it's different depending on how many players. That's in the rule book. If there's 4 players, every player gets a certain number card. If there's 6 players, it's a different number. So you need to look at that in the rule book. But then you're going to have, you're going to play one card to the table. So let's say we had this, the accordion. We're going to play the accordion. On one side of every card, it says the accordion. It says what the thing is. The accordion has an image, a picture, a very painterly illustration, which I really love the illustrations on the cards. And they're very small cards. So if that's a concern to you, I'll tell you, I'm glad that they're this small because the game can spread out pretty dramatically as you play, especially with more people. So if they were regular size poker cards, you would run out of room. But since they're small, you can play this game in smaller spaces. And the text is big enough where I've never seen anybody have a problem reading the text or seeing what's on the card. I'm pretty, I've got poor vision. I played this with older people who are farsighted, and they have no trouble reading, had no trouble reading the words either. So that shouldn't really be a concern. But on the other side of the card, it's the same exact image, and it says the accordion. However, it has a date, and it shows you when that thing was invented. So in this case, the accordion was invented in 1890 or 1829. And there's different colors on the dates too, and that tells you if it's an invention or a discovery or a monument, or in this case, it's a music, the accordion. So you put that face down on the table, and then the first player is going to look at their cards. So let's say, for example, if I was the first player, I have the color television, I have the can opener, I have the telegraph, I have the electric light bulb, and I have the Zeppelin. So you're not allowed to look at the backs of the cards because the backs have the dates. So you put these face down on the table in front of you. The premise of Timeline is very simple. The first card is on the table with the date face up. Let's say it's 1900. So I'm going to look at my cards and I'm going to pick one of my inventions. Now I have to decide, was my invention invented before 1900, before the invention on the table? If so, I place it before that card. If I think it was invented after the card on the table, in a later date, then I will play it after that card. If I'm correct, then the card stays on the table. If I am not correct, the card is discarded and I have to draw a new one. So whoever gets rid of their cards first wins the game. So it's a very simple mechanic. And as more cards get on the table, it gets harder, right? Because now the first player, who's the youngest player, by the way, only has to decide if one of their inventions goes after or before the card on the table. Once there's two cards, now you have to decide, does it go before the first card, after the last card, or does it go in between those two cards, right? So when there's three cards, now you have two spots in between where it could go. Your date, the date on your card after you reveal it, has to fit in between the card you placed it in front of and the card you placed it behind. So if you do that, then you have succeeded and you've gotten rid of a card. Very simple. And the game scales very well too, which is excellent. If you're playing with a bunch of kids and a bunch of older people, you can do it. We play with my kids, and my son, who is 7, will get 3 cards, right? His sister, who is 10, will get 5 cards. The adults will get 8 cards. So you can scale it based on the age so everybody can play. Very cool. All right, so let's look at what the general consensus is about Timeline on Board Game Geek. It's currently rated a 6.88. That's a very good rating, right? That's above average, and for Board Game Geek, that's a pretty good rating. Its board game rank is 666. It's ranked the number of the beast, but that's just coincidence. That doesn't mean anything. So that means that most people love this game, but there are a lot of people who have ranked it low. I see a bunch of 3s and 4s. And the biggest complaint, if you look through the rankings of people who've rated this game, is that it has no replay value. And I guess that could be true. If you play the game enough where you start to memorize the dates of these inventions, like Trivial Pursuit, right? People who have memorized all that trivia in the game can win it every time. Same thing here, as you memorize the dates of these inventions and you play against people who have not, then you're going to win, right? They don't have a chance. And if you're playing against people who have memorized it and you've memorized it too, then that's really not fun either, right? Because it's just luck of the draw of what you're drawing and who's going first. But I would say that this game costs $13. If you spent $13 on this game and you have learned, just let's say you've memorized half of the dates on all the inventions in this box. Say you've memorized 100. You've spent $13 to have all the fun that you had learning those dates, and now you have that extra knowledge of all those dates that you've memorized. I would say that you should probably send the company some more money because of the value that you got out of it. So the argument that there's no replay value, yeah, sure, you're right. There's not replay value once you learn all the dates, but you paid $13 for it. And how many games did you get to play before you memorized the dates? And now you've actually educated yourself about a lot of inventions that you probably didn't know. So the next time you're on Jeopardy and a question is thrown at you by Alex Trebek, and you remember it because you played Timeline and you win that $100,000, then you're going to thank me. I promise you're going to thank me. So yeah, no replay value, so that's the downside, but it's a $13 game and you have a lot to gain for those $13. So my recommendation is, if you're a gamer, buy Timeline for a filler. It's great. If you have kids, buy Timeline and play it with your kids. Spend time with your kids. Help them learn. Show them that learning things is fun. That is invaluable. If you're a casual gamer, you're going to like Timeline too, because you can pick it up very easily. The rules are simple, and you can teach anybody this game, like I said, in 2 minutes, and you're off and playing and having a good time. So Timeline, I've got to highly recommend this game to all kinds of people. Unless you really hate dates, if you really hate history, if you really hate trivia, then I would say, yeah, sure, Timeline is not for you. But I don't think there's a whole lot of people that fit that category.